The last beacon. Could you survive when the lights go out? Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about a survival story. Not the kind with grizzlies or plane crashes, not yet anyway. No, this one is far more insidious, far more pervasive because it's already happening all around you. Look around. See the soft glow of screens? Hear the endless hum of notifications? Feel the constant, almost involuntary twitch of your thumb, ready to scroll, to refresh, to consume? You are living in a world tethered, entwined, almost defined by these digital threads. And this story, this journey we're about to embark on, is about what happens when those threads fray, when they snap, when the light behind the screen goes out. Because, let's be honest, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And hey, if you're brave enough, drop your location and local time in the comments. Let's see how many of us are listening. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and get this evening started. Part 1. Could you survive if the noise stopped? Imagine it. One moment, the world is a symphony of digital pings, a constant stream of curated content, a vibrant, overwhelming cascade of information. Your phone, a glowing oracle, buzzing with the latest updates. Your laptop, a window into infinite distraction. Your smart speaker, a silent sentinel, always listening, always ready. And then, without warning, the silence. Not just quiet, but an absolute, profound cessation of all digital input. The screen goes dark. The Wi-Fi signal, a ghost. The notifications, a memory. The very air around you, suddenly devoid of the familiar hum of constant connection. A panic, cold and sharp, would ripple through the collective consciousness, because for so long, the noise has been the very fabric of existence. It's a sensory deprivation of the soul, a sudden, jarring emptiness where once there was an endless, comforting din. This digital grip, you see, it's not just a habit, it's a deeply ingrained physiological response. Every like, every share, every fleeting comment on your meticulously crafted post triggers a little burst of dopamine in your brain. It's the brain's reward system, lighting up like a Christmas tree, reinforcing the behavior. You're not just scrolling. You're pulling the lever on a slot machine, hoping for that next hit, that unpredictable but potent release of feel-good chemicals. This constant stimulation, this feedback loop, conditions you to seek validation, to compulsively check and refresh, creating a digital dependency that's as real as any other. It's a peculiar kind of survival, isn't it? One where your very sense of well-being is outsourced to a network of glowing pixels and fleeting interactions. You think you're in control, but the algorithms are whispering in your ear, guiding your thumb, shaping your desires. It's almost as if you've willingly traded your autonomy for a steady drip of digital comfort. And what does this constant digital diet do to the very machinery of your mind? It erodes it piece by piece. The rapidly changing content, the incessant notifications, they don't just distract you. They fundamentally alter your capacity to pay attention. You become accustomed to quick sound bites, to short videos, to the instant gratification of a new feed. The ability to focus, to delve deep into a single thought, starts to wither. Studies suggest it takes a staggering 23 minutes to fully refocus after a distraction. Imagine that. Nearly half an hour to reclaim your mind after a single ping. This leads to a creeping mental fatigue, a constant state of cognitive overload, and a host of cognitive lapses. Forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, the feeling of your brain being a perpetually buffering video. These are the silent costs of the endless scroll. It's a slow, quiet draining of your mental reserves, leaving you perpetually tired, perpetually scattered. The irony, of course, is that this hyperconnectivity often leads to profound isolation. You're surrounded by digital friends, by fleeting connections, but you feel more alone than ever. It's a paradox. The more connected you are online, the more disconnected you become from genuine human interaction. You struggle with low self-esteem, constantly comparing your messy, unedited life to the highlight reels of others. And then there's the fear of missing out, FOMO, a relentless anxiety that drives you to engage, even when you're exhausted, even when you know it's not truly fulfilling. This constant pressure to perform, to be seen, to be validated, creates a self-perpetuating loop of avoidance and erosion. You scroll to escape your own mind, to numb the anxiety, but the very act of scrolling deepens the anxiety, further eroding your attention and your peace. The noise you seek for comfort is, in fact, the very thing causing the internal chaos and emotional dysregulation. It's a trap, meticulously designed, and you've walked right into it. Now, pause for a moment and consider this. Our early ancestors, the Homo sapiens who navigated the brutal ice age, they survived not with glowing screens, but with language, with art, with the power of storytelling. They transmitted vast amounts of information about their environment, about edible plants and animal migrations, through shared narratives, building a collective institutional memory that spanned generations. Their survival was intrinsically linked to their ability to communicate, to share, to build a communal understanding of their world. Compare that to our modern dependence on external digital repositories, where information is abundant but often fragmented, and true understanding feels increasingly elusive. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, if our evolving definition of survival has left us vulnerable in ways we can't even comprehend. And speaking of evolution, here's a fun little fact for you. Your brain, the very organ processing these words right now, has actually shrunk by about 10% since we were hunter-gatherers. Yeah, you heard that right. Smaller. Maybe it's just getting more efficient, or maybe it's adapting to a world where we don't need to remember every berry bush or predator's track. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a subtle, unsettling implication about our physical adaptation to a world that demands less raw, primal intellect. It's all part of a larger, ongoing discussion, you know? The very nature of consciousness itself. Scholars still debate whether consciousness emerges from highly connected, unified information within the brain, or if it's a network of brain areas spotlighting important information and broadcasting it widely. Recent experiments have even challenged both of these prominent theories. It suggests that our perception of reality, what it means to be, is a far more complex and perhaps fragile construct than we imagine. And when that external digital input, that constant stream of perceived reality vanishes, what then? What is left of being when the doing stops? It's almost enough to make you laugh, isn't it? The thought of us modern humans, so utterly reliant on our little glowing rectangles. I mean, if the Wi-Fi went out for 5 minutes, I bet half of us would call 911, convinced it was a true emergency. Because, priorities. Part 2. You scroll to avoid your mind. You post to prove you exist. But what if no one sees? This isn't just a rhetorical question. It's the unsettling truth at the heart of our digital performance. You're living a curated life, meticulously crafting your highlight reel for an unseen audience. A constant, exhausting performance designed to elicit that precious dopamine hit. Every filter, every carefully chosen angle, every witty caption is a brushstroke in a masterpiece of self-deception. You compare your raw, unedited reality to the polished perfection of others, and the result is a gnawing sense of inadequacy, a creeping low self-esteem, a quiet body anxiety that whispers you're not quite good enough. Your self-worth, once an internal compass, is now tied to the fluctuating metrics of likes, shares, and comments. It's a relentless competition for social validation, and the prize is often just a fleeting sense of belonging that quickly fades, leaving you craving the next digital fix. That dopamine slot machine, remember? It's always there, humming in the background of your consciousness. The unpredictability of social validation is its greatest weapon. You never know when that next like will land, when that comment will appear, when that notification will buzz, and that very uncertainty keeps you coming back, refreshing, scrolling, hoping for that next hit. This constant craving for external validation creates a profound psychological vulnerability. If your self-worth is built on the shifting sands of digital approval, what happens when the tide goes out? What remains of you when the clapping stops? When no one is there to see your performance, to validate your existence? The constant pursuit of this external mirror leaves you feeling inadequate, unfulfilled, and paradoxically, more alone than ever. This digital existence, this constant performance, it frays the very fabric of your reality. It's like living inside a dream, a meticulously constructed illusion, much like the layers of consciousness explored in Inception. The curated content, the filters, the idealized versions of life, they create a profound disconnect from authentic experience. You're so immersed in the digital dreamscape that the lines between what's real and what's merely a projection become blurred. Your senses, once your trusted guides to the physical world, are now constantly being deceived by the digital realm, making it harder to discern genuine experience from manufactured spectacle. The constant noise, the relentless stream of distractions, prevents true introspection, pushing you further and further from your inner self. You're so busy consuming, so busy performing, that you never have a moment to simply be, to truly know the person beneath the digital facade. It's a pre-mortem of the mind, where its full capabilities for introspection and sustained attention are systematically diminished. And the cost of this constant connection is far heavier than you might realize. Beyond the anxiety and the low self-esteem, there are the creeping shadows of increased depression, the restless nights of sleep disturbances, the pervasive emotional exhaustion that leaves you feeling drained even after a full night's rest, the relentless pursuit of online validation, the fear of missing out. It all detracts from the possibility of genuine personal growth, from the rich, messy, unpredictable experiences that happen offline. You're trading depth for breadth, authentic connection for superficial engagement, and the balance sheet of your mental well-being is deep in the red. The irony is that the very platforms designed to connect us often leave us feeling more isolated, more anxious, and more profoundly disconnected from ourselves and from each other. It's a curious contrast, isn't it, when you consider the sheer resilience of our ancient ancestors? Take Homo erectus, for instance. They weren't just survivors. They were a monumental success story, existing for over 1.5 million years, adapting to vast environmental and climate changes, and becoming the first hominin to migrate out of Africa. Their survival wasn't about digital validation or curated highlight reels. It was about physical adaptation, ingenuity, and the ability to navigate a raw, unforgiving world. They moved, they explored, they physically engaged with their environment. A stark contrast to our modern, often sedentary digital survival. And speaking of things that are better when someone else does them, here's a little psychological quirk for you. Food prepared by someone else tastes much better than your own, even if you use the exact same recipe. Think about that for a moment. It's a subtle reinforcement of the idea that we perceive value differently when it comes from outside ourselves, mirroring, in a strangely mundane way, that relentless online validation cycle. We crave the external even when the internal is identical. Now, there's an interesting wrinkle in all this, something that complicates the simple narrative of digital doom. Scholars still debate the nuanced impact of digital engagement on mental health. While excessive use is clearly detrimental, some studies suggest that digital engagement can actually positively predict mental health levels and even mitigate inequalities, especially for disadvantaged groups, like women in rural areas seeking informational help or community support. It's a complex picture, isn't it? The digital world isn't a purely malevolent force. It's a tool, a double-edged sword that can be both antidote and poison, depending on how you wield it. The unseen chains aren't just forged by the tech. They're forged by your own choices, your own intent. It's honestly a miracle we haven't all completely lost it. I mean, can you imagine the full-blown existential crisis if your phone battery died before you could post that perfect sunset pic? Because, if it's not online, did it even happen? The horror. Part 3. No water. No signal.
No clapping.
Just breathing and the sound of your thoughts. This is the stark, visceral reality of a world stripped bare. A world without the comforting hum of digital distraction. The silence isn't just an absence of noise. It's a profound presence, an overwhelming emptiness that forces you to confront the most primal of needs. Food, water, shelter. These aren't just concepts anymore. They are the raw, undeniable arbiters of your existence. The lack of external validation, the absence of that digital applause, leaves you exposed, vulnerable, with only the echo of your own mind for company. It's a terrifying prospect for a mind so accustomed to constant external stimulation. Imagine the grit, the sheer, unadulterated will to survive. Think of Aaron Ralston, trapped in that canyon, his arm pinned by a boulder for 5 days. The desperation, The dwindling supplies, the agonizing decision to amputate his own arm with a dull multi-tool. It wasn't just physical endurance. It was a mental fortitude that defies comprehension, a gruesome choice born of an absolute refusal to yield. Or the Andes survivors, after their plane crashed in the frozen peaks. Faced with starvation, they made the unimaginable decision to subsist on the frozen flesh of their dead teammates. It's a harrowing testament to the extreme measures humans will take, the brotherhood forged in the crucible of impossible odds. And then there's the story of Salvador Alvarenga, adrift at sea for 438 days, battling gale force winds, pummeling waves, dehydration, and the constant threat of sharks. Over a year of isolation, of relentless physical and mental endurance, against an unforgiving, boundless ocean. Even the controversial tale of Douglas Mawson in the Antarctic, facing scurvy and starvation, with dark allegations of cannibalism swirling around his survival, speaks to the moral ambiguities and the absolute limits of human will when pushed to the brink. These aren't stories of comfort. They are revelations of what lies dormant within us, waiting for the ultimate test. This primal surge, this extraordinary display of human strength in the face of death, is a phenomenon known as hysterical strength. It's when adrenaline floods your system, sharpening your senses, making your heart and lungs work faster, sending a temporary boost of oxygen to your major muscles. It's the fight-or-flight response, kicking in when your life is on the line, allowing a parent to lift a car to save a trapped child, or a woman to wrestle a polar bear to protect her sons. This raw, untamed power lies within you, a latent potential that your modern, sedentary lifestyle rarely, if ever, calls upon. Contrast this with the psychology of ultra-endurance athletes, those who willingly push their bodies to the absolute limit. They are driven by innate psychological needs for competence, autonomy, and relatedness, finding a deep sense of self-discovery through intense emotions, bodily experiences, and encounters with nature. Their peak experiences transform a hobby into a lifestyle, a harmonious passion that defines them. And that brings us to the idea of a tribe. In ultra-endurance sports, athletes find a community, a tribe where their extreme lifestyle choices are normalized, where running 100 kilometers is just, Tuesday. It's a powerful, shared experience that reinforces their identity and motivation. Now, think about the community you find on social media. It's often a superficial echo chamber, a place where belonging is an illusion, where frequent use actually leads to lower relationship satisfaction, higher jealousy, and more conflict. You're connected, but you're still lonely. The no-clapping element of this scenario becomes a stark symbol of the absence of that superficial validation, leaving only the raw human bond, or exposing its profound absence. True survival, it seems, strips away the pretense, forcing authentic connection or revealing its lack. It's a stark reminder of how our ancestors navigated truly unforgiving landscapes. During the Ice Age, humans weren't just surviving, they were innovating. They developed sophisticated tools like detachable spearheads and harpoon tips from bone and antler, creating the first Swiss Army knives of their time. They invented the needle, allowing them to sew tailored, layered clothing for warmth, and built complex shelters, modifying natural rock overhangs and constructing mammoth bone huts. Their ingenuity, their practical skills, and their shared knowledge were the bedrock of their survival. It highlights a fundamental difference in what we now define as preparedness. Here's a peculiar thought. The human brain itself cannot feel pain. All the agony, the physical suffering in those survival stories, it's processed by the brain, but the brain itself is immune. It's a strange, almost unsettling fact, isn't it? It means the deepest pain, the most profound suffering, must be something else entirely. And this brings us to a fascinating scholarly debate. For centuries, thinkers have grappled with the evolution of consciousness and its causal potency. Does consciousness actually do anything? Does it have a tangible impact on the physical world? Or is it just a byproduct? The argument is that for consciousness to have evolved through natural selection, it must confer some advantage, it must be causally potent. The decisions made by a Ralston, or the Andes survivors, however gruesome, were conscious choices that directly impacted their physical survival. Their minds, in those moments, were not just observers. They were active agents in the brutal dance of survival. It's almost funny, really, how our idea of a survival kit these days usually consists of a portable charger and a Wi-Fi hotspot. Because, priorities. Who needs a compass when you have Google Maps? Who needs a fire starter when you have a fully charged phone to order pizza? Part 4. You've survived the worst days of your life. But can you survive the weight of who you really are? This is the ultimate confrontation, the final, most terrifying survival test. When the noise stops, when the signal vanishes, when the applause fades, and the distractions are purged, you are left with only yourself. This isn't a purge of violence, but a stripping away of every superficial layer you've built around your true self. The digital facade crumbles, the curated performance ends, and the raw, unvarnished person beneath is finally, inescapably, revealed. It's a forced introspection, a silence so profound it screams. This is where the Black Mirror truly comes into focus. Not the one on your phone, dark and inert, but the one that reflects your anxieties, your deepest fears, the unsettling truth of how you've become a stranger to yourself. Black Mirror shows us how technology, while offering convenience, often exacerbates our problematic personality traits, leading us down paths that create a private hell. The constant connectivity, the endless scroll, these were not just tools. They were masks, distractions, a way to avoid the uncomfortable truths lurking within. Now, without that digital escape, you are left with the raw anxieties that constant connection once masked, the emptiness that the endless scrolling tried to fill. It's a chilling reflection, isn't it? The show itself, in a strange twist, acts as an antidote as it distills the poison, allowing you to acknowledge the discomfort without truly changing your behavior. But in this forced silence, there's no more watching. There's only being. And what of reality itself? Inception plunged us into layers of dreams, blurring the lines between what is real and what is merely perceived. The film questioned how much of our reality is a carefully constructed illusion, how easily our senses can be deceived. In this lights-out scenario, the external reality, the one so heavily influenced by your digital feed, is gone. The inner reality, perhaps long avoided, long suppressed by the constant influx of external stimuli, becomes the only truth. How much of yourself was a carefully constructed dream, fueled by dopamine hits and social validation? When the external scaffolding of your identity is removed, what remains? This is the existential crisis, the confrontation with a self whose worth was tied to likes and shares, now left with nothing but its own quiet, unacknowledged presence. This is the climax of your survival story. It's not about fighting a bear or amputating a limb. It's about facing the raw, unvarnished person beneath the digital facade. The fear of loneliness and isolation, once a low hum beneath the surface of your online life, becomes acute, overwhelming, because there is no digital escape, no curated feed to numb the discomfort. You are left with your true motivations, your deepest insecurities, the profound emptiness that the constant scroll tried to fill. This is your inner wilderness, and it can be far more daunting than any physical landscape. It's a confrontation with the bungled reception of technology, the realization that you've allowed technology to foster passivity, to shape your desires, to diminish your true agency. The silence, then, is a vacuum, a space where true agency could emerge, if you are brave enough to reclaim it. It's a different kind of evolution, isn't it? Homo erectus survived for millions of years through physical adaptation, through their ability to move and adapt to a changing world. But our modern challenge isn't just physical. It's profoundly psychological. It's about evolving to withstand the absence of external validation, to find resilience in the quiet, unadorned self. And here's a thought, perhaps a small comfort, perhaps not. The human brain itself cannot feel pain. The agony you might feel in this inner wilderness, this confrontation with yourself, is purely psychological. It's a different kind of suffering, perhaps more profound, because it's not physical. It's the pain of revelation of truth. This profound shift, this forced cessation of doing, brings us back to the scholarly debates around consciousness. Some theories suggest that consciousness is more linked to sensory processing and perception, to being, rather than reasoning and planning, to doing. When the constant doing of digital life stops, you are left with the raw being. What does that truly mean without external input, without the constant validation that has defined so much of your perceived existence? The question lingers, haunting and profound. It's a quiet chuckle, isn't it? The thought that when the lights go out, the only followers you'd have left are the dust bunnies under your bed. Because, real influence. The silence deepens now, doesn't it? The hum of the fan, perhaps, a gentle, rhythmic whisper against the quiet of your own thoughts. We've journeyed through the digital landscape, seen its glittering promises and its hidden costs, felt the phantom vibrations of connection and the cold truth of isolation. We've peered into the abyss of a world without the noise, a world where the screens are black, reflecting only the unvarnished self. And we've glimpsed the raw, brutal beauty of primal survival, the sheer, unyielding will to exist when everything is stripped away. You don't need to have all the answers. There are no easy solutions, no simple paths back to a forgotten innocence. This isn't about teaching you how to survive a zombie apocalypse or a power grid collapse. It's about the deeper, more profound survival that happens within. It's about the quiet, unsettling realization that the greatest wilderness you will ever face is the one inside your own mind, the one you've been scrolling to avoid. The true beacon, the only one that truly matters when the lights go out, isn't a signal, isn't a screen, isn't a crowd. It's the quiet, unadorned self, waiting to be rediscovered, waiting to simply be.